Hey guys, how's it going? I just wanted to share a few more tidbits of information that I have. Have you ever wondered why dogs have wet noses? It's a question I've heard more than once. I believe I have the answer. God gave dogs wet noses so that when you go to pick up their poop, you have a way to open those stupid little plastic bags. Have you ever been sitting out there on your hands are dry, you're trying to open those stupid bags, and you're on the edge, and you're trying to get it to open, you can't get it to open, you don't want to lick your hands because you're dealing with dog poop or you've been outside for a while, so you're just trying to figure out how to open this bag. Next time that happens to you, all you have to do is tap your dog's nose, and now your hands are moist enough that you can open those bags. So that is why God gave dogs wet noses, so you can pick up after them easier. And speaking of my dog, we take her to the vet, and one time the vet gave us this really weird feedback. So she had blood work or something like that. They sent it out. They were just testing for different things, and she came up clear, mostly, except that they said that she tested positive for giardia. But what they told us was kind of strange. So they didn't seem worried about it. They were like, you don't really have to do anything about it. In fact, just because she tested positive for giardia doesn't even mean she has it. And they didn't ask for any follow-ups. They didn't do any other questions. They basically just ignored it. They're like, she tested positive for giardia, but she's clear. The vet said that they weren't worried about it, so we weren't worried about it. But I just thought that was strange. Why even have a test if the test results don't matter at all? Why are you testing for giardia if a positive test comes back? Yeah, I mean, she might have it, she might not. What's the point of the test? Why did we just pay for that? But having a dog can be both stressful and useful when you have a child. So, my wife, we have a toddler, and my wife will often cook her meals. And so sometimes during the night, she'll spend an hour and a half preparing this very well-balanced meal for my daughter. It has all the different food groups. It's all healthy, but it's all seasoned, and it tastes good, but it's not bad for you, that kind of stuff. And she doesn't make any for us, so she just makes our daughter dinner. And our daughter is a toddler, so she doesn't appreciate all that work that went into it, so she'll just take the food and start throwing it on the floor. And so we do our best to discourage her from throwing it on the floor, but at the end of the meal, oftentimes about half the food ends up on the floor. So by the time my daughter finishes dinner, it normally ends up the case that we didn't eat anything. Our daughter ate some of the stuff that we gave her, and our dog had a very balanced dinner. So, we'll eat our dinner later, but it's normally not the well-prepared, well-balanced meal that she made for my daughter. We'll have something else separate later. When you're time-strapped and sleep-deprived, you don't always have the time to make the best meal decisions for yourself. So a lot of times, for my wife, her only breakfast will be something like coffee. And so one morning we were outside of Dunkin' Donuts, and my wife said, she wanted to get a black coffee. She said it sounded good to her. So we went inside Dunkin' Donuts, and she got to the counter, and she said, I'd like a black coffee, please, just small black coffee. And the person behind the register said, you want a black coffee? You sure you don't want some milk or sugar? And my wife's like, no, thank you. I'll just take a black coffee, please. And so she hesitated again. You sure? And, okay. And so she put it in. And so while we were waiting for them to pour her coffee, it just struck me funny. It was the cashier was like, so I know I work at a Dunkin' Donuts, but this stuff tastes like crap, right? Have you ever had one? It's terrible. Why don't we just go ahead? We'll put some cream in it. We'll put some sugar in it. It'll taste at least somewhat good, because coffee is not good. Speaking of weird food stuff, there was a story that I told in a previous video about this ice cream truck that was coming around at 1:30 in the morning. We kept having this ice cream truck blaring its ice cream truck music at 1:30 in the morning. It was waking us up. I went out to check it one night, and it was literally just handing out ice cream cones to these adults at 1:30 in the morning on our street. And so my wife wanted me to do something about it. They seemed to be doing legitimate business, but I still called 911, and I talked to the lady. She said there's nothing we can really do to help, and I said okay, and I guess kind of hung up. But something I should have said, but I didn't think of at the time, is I should have just told her, isn't it more suspicious that they're selling ice cream at 1:30 in the morning and not drugs? Maybe you should just check it out. And so I'm a big fan of ice cream, a big fan of food in general. We were vacationing down in, I believe it was North Carolina, maybe South Carolina, and we we're just kind of like looking around different towns in the area and going into these stores, just looking at stuff, and like almost every store had like this own, like, you know, they had a cookbook section, and they had like a dedicated area of their cookbook section dedicated to grits. There was like 50 different books on different ways to cook grits and like recipes and like famous people cooking grits dishes and stuff like that. And so you know, it was on the menu of like almost every restaurant in town. And so I was like, all right, you know what, I've never had grits. My wife had never had grits. So when we did end up going to a restaurant, we decided, all right, that's one of the things we're going to get when we go to a restaurant is grits. We're going to try it. And so we got there. They had like 14 different types of grits on the menu. And so we asked the waiter, like, you know, we have not had grits before, and what is your favorite? What, like, do you like grits? And she's like, oh, I love grits. They're like the best thing. I have it with every meal. And so we asked her, okay, so like what would you recommend out of all these options? What kind of grits would you recommend? And she was like, honestly, my favorite is just the regular original grits, and I think you guys are gonna love them. And so that's what we did. We ordered a regular original grits, and they brought it to our table with our food. And, you know, it doesn't look great. It's basically just a big pile of mush. But, you know, we're like, all right, we're not going to judge it by its looks. We're going to give it a try. And so we tried it, and we were disappointed to find out that grits is basically just like flavorless pulp. Like, it's nothing. It doesn't taste like anything. Like, I ate it. That was the first thing I ate. I ate a spoonful of it. I didn't taste anything. It was the consistency of applesauce, which basically you can just drink if you wanted to, but it had no flavor. So it's kind of like, have you ever had seltzer water, just regular seltzer water, sparkling water, whatever you want to call it? So, you know, my whole life, anything that I drank that had like that bubbly fizz to it, it always had some sort of flavor. So the first time that I had sparkling water, even though it tastes literally like nothing, I drank it and my brain told me this was gross because it was expecting some sort of flavor and it got nothing. Grits is like the sparkling water of food. My brain expected me to, when I put something in my mouth, it's going to taste like something. It tasted like nothing at all. I don't know if grits is good for you. I hope it is, because if it's going to taste like that, it better at least be good for you. And if it's not good for you, like, what's the point of adding it to anything? I mean, I guess it could be similar to rice, where rice is not necessarily something you eat just by itself. It's something you eat as part of a different dish. You know, you add it to things. You put stuff inside rice. Rice is a conduit for other flavors. But if you just have plain rice, you still taste rice. It tastes like rice. So, I mean, you guys can let me know, is grits good for you? Because I sure hope so. You know, I am always looking for healthier foods. I was at the grocery store and I was buying some stuff, and I had this big shopping cart full of stuff, and there was this lady behind me who only had like two things. She'd like a can of soup and like, I don't know, turnip or something. I can't remember. And so I was like, all right, is that all you have? And she's like, yeah. And you can go in front of me. I have a big cart full of stuff. So she's like, oh, thank you. And so she went ahead of me. And when she went to buy her turnip and can of soup or whatever, she was paying completely 100% in change, and not like in quarters. It's like she had been going to the laundromat, and so she was out of quarters. She had no cash on her, and this was all the change she could find lying around her house, and she had it like in this little coin pouch. And so she dumped like the whole coin pouch out on the counter. And so I don't know this lady's situation, but I don't think she was down to her final few cents just buying whatever she can afford to eat. Didn't seem like that was the situation. It seemed more like she just needed a couple things and she needed to get rid of all the change that she's been building up for the last 7 years. And so I try my best to buy healthy foods and eat healthy foods, but I mean, bad foods are just way too delicious. So I can't just rely on myself having the willpower to just eat healthy foods. So what I have to do is find different ways to trick myself into not eating unhealthy foods. There's also the constant battle of getting up and working out or doing something, going for a walk. And so trying to combat that tendency to just be lazy and not work out, while also trying to combat and resist the urge to eat bad foods. So what I try to do is I try to pit those two things against each other. So at night, when I'm just sitting down and relaxing after a long day, and I kind of feel like snacking or munching on something that I know is going to be unhealthy. At that time, I try to allow my laziness to win, because I don't want to get up to do anything. I don't want to go get food. I don't want to go get a drink. I don't want to change the channel if the remote's not near me. I just want to sit there. And so I utilize that lazy tendency as a strength to keep me from going to get a bag of chips and eating the whole thing right there. So let me know if you guys have ever experienced any of these things. But more specifically, let me know if you like grits. If you specifically like grits, please tell me why you like grits. Since that first time I've had grits, I've had grits again. I thought maybe that place just made bad grits or something like that. And I had this one called, instead of getting the regular, I got cheesy grits. And I might as well have just eaten cheese. Like, it didn't taste like anything besides cheese. It was really now just kind of chunky cheese, which, wasn't great as a texture, but did just taste like cheese. So, I don't know what I'm missing, or if that's just what it is. It's just, maybe it's a texture thing. You like the texture? I don't know. Please explain to me why you like grits. All right. I'll talk to you later.